Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead. We are here today with PJ. His wife Lisa and his grandchild is here with us visiting for a while. We really enjoyed our fellowship with them today, and BJ and I have talked about so much stuff. I reckon that basically what's on our mind today is a lot about faith-based homesteads. We're really interested in that. The development of it, I guess you might say, from conventional homesteading, because it plays a vital, important part in who we are as God's people, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm just kind of, I guess I'm kind of curious, BJ, is a little bit of what, some of your thoughts about the faith-based homestead movement.
There's a lot of folks that try to learn things that don't maybe fully understand exactly what they're doing, and maybe an experimental process in homesteading where they're trying things for the first time. And they can either read it from a book, they could either see it from a YouTube video and educate themselves, but there's never really a full understanding until you really get out there and spend time with the gardening and realize that there's a peaceful time that God created everything naturally, and of course Lisa and I, we do it as much as we can organically, and not use, as most people say, synthetic chemicals, but we want to be able to relate and connect with everything that we're doing, and put a lot of our faith in that. I may not do things right all the time, but I really I believe that if I patiently wait and put a lot of faith into what I'm doing, that justifiably for the right reasons, that I don't have to put too much of me into it. I can calculate my thinking and my processes in doing something for a faith-based homestead, no matter if it's gardening or just making a decision as a leader in everything I do, knowing that I can trust something higher than myself, that I can walk with that and get something done without all the pressures being that.
I mean, to me, I find it interesting how that we have to depend on the Father for everything, literally. When we may prepare the soil, we may put all the amendments into the soil, we may put the seed in the soil, but once it leaves our hands, that embryo that lies within that seed needs that delicate environment, I guess might be the proper word to use there, before it can actually do anything. And that's where the Father comes in at. I mean, it's up to Him at that point to make the rest of it happen.
Yeah, if you bring yourself down, it's like God was telling me, if you look at the embryo close enough, everything that's small in a micro sense, and if we give her a chance to understand things better and give us the time that we need with Him, He will show us that we need to nourish that embryo.
Yeah.
We need to give it the right moisture. We need to make sure that it's in the right soil.
Yes.
And that way we could actually see things as they grow in a proper way. If we don't take care of it like our children, then it's not going to have the right nourishment. We don't have the answers for everything. We have to learn from other homesteads what their knowledge are on certain issues as we try to acculate. But that embryo process is a great example of looking how things begin.
It does, and I actually attribute our life to the same thing. We're dead, because the Scripture says we're dead in sin before Him. And we come to a point in life that until we come into the right environment in our life, it's not until then that we can grow. And we have to look around us and we go, of the situation that we're in. Faith-based homesteading is a prime example where people finally locate where they need to be at. And as an individual, God finally puts them in the perfect environment for them to actually sprout and to grow. And when they grow in a faith-based homestead like that, then they're productive and they bear fruit.
We are all wanting to do the best we can when we go into the program of thinking about putting a homestead together. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
What kind of homestead do we want to put together? They're never the same. That needs to be understood. Is they don't need to
Right.
be the same. Each one of us becomes a book, a walking book individually, our homesteads, and we can all learn from each other just how different we really are. We can go and buy books, watch videos, all we want to, about trying to educate ourselves, go to libraries, and that's all great. There's great education out there, and we want to be able to continue to keep continually adding to what we feel
Yes.
we're wanting to do to better ourselves. But when we do watch each other, faith-based homesteads, like I say, opposed to a conventional, there's just a routine with conventional for the most part. You do the same thing for the most part all the time and repetitively. Faith-based, we have to look at each other, like Danny's homestead opposed to my homestead and Dirt Patch Heaven and other folks that have different methods. There are books that God wants us to see that He has written.
Yeah.
A regular book you can pick up that's been edited, that's been written by man.
Right.
We can only perceive from that book what we are reading from that book.
Yes.
But when we get a chance to watch each other and learn from each other, that's God's written book, and each one of us individually, and we get to see that life activity happening and unfold right then. That's what inspires me and teaches me through faith-based when I see somebody who puts God in their every being, every activity.
I agree.
We're not perfect human beings. We don't do things right all the time, but we've got something bigger that we trust.
Yeah, I mean, what gets me, I guess, is the individuality. There is as many ways to homestead as there are people to do them. Like you said, my homestead's going to be different than your homestead.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that your homestead is wrong, and it doesn't mean that my homestead is wrong.
Right.
It just means that we have different ways of achieving the same goal. Because at the end of the day, you and I have talked about this, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we may have a different way of getting there.
Different approach.
Every one of us have a different approach, and it doesn't make any one of them right or any one of them wrong.
That's right.
It's whatever the Father, His journey is for us to get us there, because you're where you are today because of your past. I'm where I am today because of my past. The lessons that I've learned in my past, the lessons you've learned in your past, allows you to reach a particular group of people. The group of people that you'll be able to reach is different than the group of people that I'll be able to reach. And the Father does that because He wants to have somebody for every group to be able to reach. And you and I can both see the same thing happen. And when we give an account of it, we're going to see it through two different perspectives.
That's right.
Just like I'll use it for instance, the disciples. We had Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, our four Gospels. The four Gospels all saw the same thing with Christ, but because Luke was a doctor, one of them was a tax collector. Every one of them had a different perspective on what they saw with Christ, and even though they wrote it in a little bit of a different way, none of them contradict the other one. But yet they all have the same end result. It's to glorify the Father.
There was much conflict personally between some of them.
Between some of them, there was conflict.
Very different.
But they all had the same end results. And
some of them could agree to disagree.
Yes, they agreed to disagree, and I want to think that may be somewhere in the homesteading network that we're talking about,
right,
that we should work on.
The operation that I have, the Homesteaders Workshop, is primarily, I feel, with that in mind, is exactly that. Is that we should be able to work together as homesteads, put workshops together that we can teach each one the way God's showing us on our homesteads. Whether it's just putting a project together, whether it's working in the garden and trying a new approach of gardening, whether we're in the kitchen, food prepping, food preserving, food storage. There's so much on a homestead as we all try to bring together an operation that's going to be able to be beneficial for all our families.
Yeah.
But typically things have a standard way of doing things, but maybe with a twist with each little homestead.
Yes.
Because we all want to we all want to grow, we all want to be able to go out and maintenance and put our homesteads together. Mm-hmm. There's a thing that we do organically that's different than just standard procedures where people don't use organics. They might want to acculate synthetic chemicals, fertilizers. That's something that they're used to doing, and how they get those chemicals, where they get those chemicals, opposed to somebody who really does not want to have anything of the sort. And they still grow and they still evolve.
Right.
But there's just a different method of greenhousing.
I agree with that completely. Yeah.
So, but when we all have an opportunity to sit down, whether we are agreeing to disagree or learning and being educated by one another, that's what inspires me, is to watch from the Homesteaders Workshop, to see other homesteaders that are doing things in a different way. It intrigues me. Yeah. And if it's something that's going to teach me and educate me, that I'm going to add to my operation, I think it's great. But when I sit down with a brother and a sister that's able to tell me what they're going through in their faith, and how they're walking through that process, and it's a much less stress atmosphere. It's a blessed atmosphere. Our children are able to grow up in an environment that it's very beneficial for them, and they see how we act and through our good times and bad times. And we are able to worship together and grow together and work together. Yes. That's a strong faith-based homestead is much different than just going out and doing a routine. Yeah,
I agree with that. And one thing with the faith-based homesteading is that we've learned the lesson that you mentioned there is the agreeing to disagree. I've been a minister. I've counseled. I've been in 2 or 3 different types of religions and stuff like that. And if there's one thing I've learned in this life that I've lived so far, is that I never go around criticizing anyone because of where they're at in their journey. Because there was points in my life where I was at a particular place in my journey in my life where I did not know the things that I needed to know. And had someone come along and been belligerent to me and badgered me at that time and told me that, you don't fit in here and, you don't belong here and all that kind of stuff, rather than doing what Christ said, to love one another as I loved you, which is an unconditional love. I think that us as faith-based homesteaders, that's one thing that we're going to have to come to grips with, is that everybody's not going to be like us. And we're going to have to learn that we've got to accept each other for who we are.
That's great.
And not overstep our boundaries and try to make someone become who we are. Because we're each different individuals whom Christ is molding to fit his ultimate plan as individuals.
That's right. Starry Hilder, a dear friend of mine, has made many comments in her experiences through her journey of that very thing right there, trials and tribulations, and showing how different that we can be, even in her personal vlogs, where she is able to share her spirituality and her walk, her journey. Mm-hmm. And she's changed so much. There's so many wonderful things that I have been inspired by from her and other homesteads like Zach and Jamie in American Homestead.
Yes. Good Zach, friends of ours. Yeah.
Zach, wonderful, where he says on many occasions, I've never done this before, but with his parents, his father-in-law and his mother-in-law, how he's able to work through things and being taught for the first time. They're stepping out and wanting to share that with the world on a wonderful homestead, and watching that family grow up the way they have, and doing things he's never done before. But I've seen operations that they've done, that they've tried, and they put a lot of thought into, and they planned and well managed. That's inspiring. And with me, the Homesteaders Workshop I feed off that. Mm-hmm. It's not about wanting to implement who I am. It's wanting to look out there and bring out what the others are doing.
Yes.
And trying to incorporate that into what I do. But the relationships is what's edifying for me and my wife and I, Lisa. We truly love the relationships and those people that are willing to step out and share that information and give somebody else a chance to say, this is how we do it over here. And the kids can grow up and share that as well.
I guess that was probably one of the biggest obstacles here at Deep South Homestead that we had to get over, was stepping out.
Trust.
Yeah, because what happens is, you put your life out there. You're like an open book,
right?
And you have to be pretty transparent about some things.
Gotta be.
And that that gets tough sometimes.
Right.
It really does, and especially as private of a person as I was, and
That's right.
my neighbors even to this day, and I know you're gonna watch this and you're gonna probably call me, but I mean, it's amazing that they look at me and go, if they'd have just known me 5 years ago, they're completely blown away that I'm doing this today. And that's just a testimony to Christ as to how he can mold someone and take them from being someone who did not want to be in the limelight, didn't want to be in the spotlight, wanted to be extremely private. And he says, no, I have a message. And you're the vessel that I want that message to get out there through. Now, I could have said no. And I could have balked. And I could have said, no, I'm not doing this. But now that I look back and the people that we've come in contact with, even you, I would have never known you in this lifetime if we hadn't sat down and done YouTube. And all the people that was at the gathering and the people we've met, come in contact with, the people who call us on a weekly basis and just need some advice. That's our job.
That's right.
I mean, we're not put here on this earth to just take up space. We're put here for a purpose. And when we figure out what that purpose is for each individual one of us, and figure out what our gifts are, because he does say each one of us are given a gift. And when we manifest that gift, it's at that point in a faith-based homestead that we not only bring up our children in a way in which they should grow, and for people like us, that's already, our children are gone, but we have the opportunity to make an impact on those who have not quite reached that age yet.
Yeah, there's many of us that's had stories before the homestead thought even came about.
Yeah.
And many of this, even myself, was challenged by, we feeling that we're being called by our higher call to approach this homestead movement or anything of the such. It's like, well, we've lived this life before. How do I homestead? It's a work in process. Until I was able to understand, he was telling me to stop what I was doing and then turn around and then go the other way. There was 3 steps, and I never could figure out for the longest time what he was talking about, what I felt I was being drawn to. And I kept telling Lisa, it's like he's wanting me to stop what I'm doing. My life was going so fast.
Right.
In my music profession and in my business with Customs Workshop, that I got so used to going so fast, living that life of high management, and I was missing the points. And he said, stop. And I told her, I don't know what I'm stopping for. Then slowly I was starting to get little nuggets here and there that he was delivering for me. And then I felt he said, turn around. And I'm like, turning around to what?
Right, yeah.
And when I did turn around, it's like I was looking down a highway that nobody was going anywhere, but everybody was going the opposite direction. It's like I just got off this highway.
Yeah.
And when I started to realize, I told Lisa, I said, I don't know what I'm going to. And it's like, he said, I'll let you know in time. And slowly but surely, especially these last 4 or 5 years, I've been able to give myself and him enough time for me to understand fully what's on that road. And then people like yourself that I've been able to meet, Starry Elder, Jamie and Zach and Dirt Patch Evan and many others that I'm watching. And I'm like, so many wonderful people that are willing to share their love of what they've learned. And I'm like, there is something bigger than me out there.
There is. This, guys, I'll be the first to say this. When we started YouTube some 2 years ago, the name homesteading and the word homesteading, I knew what it was because I'd studied it in school. But that concept just literally did not resonate with me. I was like, everybody said, you're a homesteader. I'm like, a what? Yeah. and I told them, I said, no, it's just the way I live. And it's come to the point where when we had to create a YouTube channel, we were like, Deep South Homestead. And I told Wanda, I said, I guess this is what it's called now. It's a movement. And it is literally sweeping the nation, literally. And I told her, I says, I want to be in on it. I want to be in on ground floor of it. I want to make sure that we're part of this because this could be great. Because this seems to be, now, I could be wrong about this, but this seems to be where God's taking his people right now.
I believe that, yes.
Because we were noticing here a while back, and I'll say this on camera, I don't mind saying it. We have so many of our friends whose husbands were all of a sudden out of work, or they got hurt, or something other happened to bring them home out of the workforce that's out there. And what's happening is God has actually created the situation where men have to come home, because you need the man around the house to make a faith-based homestead work like it's supposed to work. I mean, you probably could tell if you was depending on Lisa 100% to run the homestead without you being there, it's going to be tough. It's a one-sided situation.
Although it can happen.
It can be done.
I have been down, and she's had to be able to step up. There's a lot of pressures there. There's a lot of ladies out there that are raising children by themselves. I've had many people come to me over the last several years asking myself questions that I find very intriguing of how do you do this and how do you do that? What would be your perspective on this? So many people are even trying to get a homestead starting with very little space to do it, or by themselves. That's why the Homesteaders Workshop that I feel God is leading me to is to be able to speak with so many other homesteads so they can share, bring out those ideas. There's a lot of people that have got questions. I really would love to know how they could either do it better or at least get started, or to start with what they have. Mm-hmm. And there's just not a single homestead out there that does everything the exact same.
No, that doesn't exist.
Right. And the leaders, when we lead by example, we need to step up. We need to be willing to step out there and say, you know what, there's somebody that's got a need. It might just be that one individual or that one homestead, whether it's a woman running her homestead by herself, or whether it's a small family trying to work on a very limited area. We've got wonderful people out there putting out literature, giving themselves, showing that there is ways that you can grow a homestead on a quarter, half acre, full acre, organically, but just coming together as a whole family, as a community, to bring the homestead ideas, the variation of homesteads. God's going to give each one a way to do it in a way that I've never seen before, and it's going to ever continue. And as long as we step up and step out. I used to have a blues man called Stepping Out, and I understand now more that when you get out there, that's what it's all about. You've got to be willing to be trustworthy. You got to be willing to trust, and you got to be willing to have the faith that hard times, good times, and bad, that you feel that there's a higher purpose that's going to get you through, that you don't have to worry about everything. You don't have to go on a strict schedule, a regime.
Right.
That there's going to be times of failure. Experimentation is a wonderful thing, to step out and try something new. I'll call another brother and sister on another homestead and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Yes.
YouTube has been a wonderful impact on my wife and I. That's something that I've been in music for years, and never really looked at from that perspective, that there are people using it for educational and spiritual and wonderful relationship purposes, to get to know others and put themselves out there. And I believe God has used that even through Charles Stanley and the Ministries of In Touch. The ministries are out there. We are all a book, a walking ministry. That's what he designed us for. But when we come together as homesteads, especially faith-based, when we put all that together, like coming together for the gathering, the Deep South gathering, it was meant to be able to let everybody get together as a gathering to meet each other. And the YouTube channels have taught me a lot, that there is wonderful ways, like I seen Daryl there at the homestead, to be able to share and do interviews, and to let people see who you are and how God's letting you shine.
Yes.
That way people can learn and see exactly how you started and where you are today.
Yeah, as we, I guess I'll use a comment as we reel this thing in. There's no way on the face of the earth, me being a construction guy, a mechanic, a painter, all the different things that I've been in my life, you being a musician, a carpenter also, these type things, had it not been for us creating community, there's no way we would have ever come together. And there's no way that we would have ever been able to fellowship the way that we fellowship here. And I guess that's one thing that I try to bring out to you guys here on a YouTube channels as you watch us is the simple fact that even though we're individuals, no man is an island all to himself. Everybody needs somebody. And as we try to create these homesteads that we're talking about, these faith-based homesteads, my homestead is faith-based. It's not going to be for everybody out there. There's going to be people who watch this video here today that's going to make a comment that's probably going to, I'm going to probably have to pull it down. It's just going to be, you know, I don't know why everything has to be about God on a homestead. You know, I'm going to have that comment, and I'm going to go ahead and say it because I know it's going to be there. And then when it does, I'll pull it down. But if that's the case, then this video was not for that person. You know, this video is for those out there that are interested in faith-based homesteading. And you look into BJ and mine's life, and we tell a little bit about our history here. We tell a little bit about what we believe to be something that's important. And I think that I think it's needed today.
We can all coexist.
We can coexist. We can agree to disagree. We can love one another. We can learn from one another.
Lead by example.
And lead by example is exactly right. So guys, I have thoroughly enjoyed having BJ with me here today. Brother, it has been a pleasure, an honor. And guys, this guy right here is a very dear friend of mine. We look forward to spending much more time with him and his wife, Lisa. You know, it's these kind of friendships and these kind of relationships that build. Stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you something. I perceive some very good things coming down the line. And I believe that we're going to be able to work it out, and I believe we're going to be able to have some blessings, and I believe we're going to be able to bless y'all also. So thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.